coffee shop was unusually quiet that morning, the kind of quiet that made Ethan believe, for the first time in weeks, that he might actually have a peaceful day. The air smelled faintly of roasted beans and warm pastries. Sunlight entered in soft beams through the wide glass windows, turning the room into a gentle glow. He had come here hoping to escape the noise inside his own mind, to silence the lingering ache of a life that had recently taken a sharp turn. He just wanted an hour to breathe, to feel normal again. But life has a strange way of choosing its moments, and sometimes the deepest shifts begin with something as small and unexpected as a child's voice, soft, honest, and unfiltered, saying words that forced the heart to awaken. Ethan never imagined that a little boy, standing beside a tired woman, would look up at him and say, "Mom needs a place to sit," and that those simple words would unravel something inside him that he thought had been sealed shut forever. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. Ethan had been sitting at a corner table, nursing a cup of black coffee. He wasn't reading, wasn't working, just staring at the steam as if answers could rise from it. The past 3 months had been the darkest he'd ever lived through. His marriage, once steady and warm, had collapsed under the weight of misunderstandings, exhaustion, and too many unspoken hurts. He had moved into a modest apartment across town, leaving behind the familiar walls that once heard laughter, quiet prayers, and gentle dreams spoken late at night. The silence of his new life felt like a punishment he didn't quite deserve but didn't know how to escape. He chose the coffee shop because it was neutral ground. No memories attached, no ghosts walking its hallways, just people passing through, strangers living their own battles for a while. That anonymity comforted him. But that morning, as he sat trying to calm his restless thoughts, he noticed a woman and a young boy standing near the entrance. The woman looked worn out, but not defeated. Her posture carried exhaustion like a weight she had long grown used to holding. She had brown hair falling loosely around her shoulders, a navy sweater, and eyes that seemed to carry a history of quiet sacrifices. The boy, maybe 6 or 7, had light blonde hair framing his gentle face. He held her hand tightly, glancing around with innocent curiosity. They weren't the only customers waiting for seats, but something about them drew Ethan's attention. Maybe it was the woman's soft attempt to smile, despite looking like she could crumble any second. Maybe it was the subtle way the boy leaned closer to her, sensing her fatigue even without understanding it fully. Or maybe it was the way Ethan recognized traces of his own emptiness reflected in her expression. An expression that hinted at battles fought quietly. Alone, he glanced away, reminding himself that other people's problems weren't his to absorb. He had enough of his own. But fate does not ask permission before intertwining paths. It simply nudges, sometimes gently, sometimes insistently. When the boy approached, it happened so naturally Ethan didn't register it until he felt small fingers tap his knee. The child stood there, looking up with wide, earnest eyes, and said, "Mom needs a place to sit." Ethan froze for a moment, the world narrowing to the innocence of that request. The boy wasn't demanding, wasn't complaining. He was simply stating a truth his heart could not ignore. His mother wasn't asking for help, but her exhaustion made the boy step forward for her, and something about that melted the cold distance Ethan had been trying so hard to keep between himself and the world. He stood immediately, gesturing toward the table. The woman hurried over, gratitude shining in her tired eyes as she mouthed a thank you, but her voice was too soft to carry. Ethan waved it off politely and stepped back. He could have walked away right. They returned to his own quiet corner or left the cafe entirely, but something rooted him in place for a moment. Maybe it was the realization that kindness did not have to be complicated. Maybe it was the way the boy's simple gesture reminded him that compassion still existed, even in the smallest hearts. He moved to an empty stool near the counter, giving them space, yet unable to detach his thoughts from the pair. He watched as the woman settled into the chair, sighing as though her body had been craving rest for hours. The boy sat beside her, swinging his legs lightly, the innocence of childhood creating a stark contrast to the heaviness the woman carried. Ethan didn't want to intrude, but life has a gentle way of nudging strangers together in moments when they all need something they don't yet know how to ask for. The barista, noticing Ethan's moved seat, mistakenly brought a refill to the wrong table and placed it in front of the woman. She shook her head, explaining it wasn't hers. The barista apologized, then set it on the counter. For Ethan anyway, insisting it was on the house for his patient's win. Ethan reached for it. He caught the woman's brief smile, a soft, grateful expression that carried more sincerity than words. The moment ended quickly, but it planted a seed for the next 20 minutes. Ethan sat quietly listening to the indistinct sounds of the cafe. Conversations rose and fell. Espresso machines hissed. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor, and yet his focus kept drifting. To the woman and her child, something told him they weren't just tired, they were carrying a story, one shaped by struggle and resilience. When she stood to leave, he noticed that her left leg trembled slightly, as if she were recovering from an injury. She held the boy's hand as they walked out, and the tenderness of that simple gesture lodged itself in Ethan's chest. He didn't expect to see them again, but destiny is persistent. 3 days later, at nearly the same hour, they returned to the cafe. The woman looked a little stronger this time, though still not entirely steady. Ethan, sitting in his usual corner, noticed them immediately. He tried not to stare, but the little boy spotted him first. His eyes lit up with recognition, and before Ethan could process it, the child tugged his mother's hand and approached. The woman looked embarrassed, apologizing softly for disturbing him, but the boy smiled brightly. Ethan simply nodded, offering a warm smile that surprised even him. He hadn't smiled genuinely in weeks. Yet this small family strangers had triggered something dormant inside him. They didn't sit with him or speak long, but the brief moment of human connection felt like a light breaking through a long stretch of cloudy days. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan found himself noticing patterns every few mornings. The woman, whose name he eventually learned was Laura, and her son, Caleb, appeared. Like clockwork, they never asked for anything, never lingered long, and always carried an air of quiet dignity. Ethan discovered, through gentle observation and overheard snippets, that Laura was recovering from a complicated surgery after an accident that had nearly taken her life. She was a single mother working 2 part-time jobs, fighting to rebuild strength in her legs while trying to ensure Caleb never felt the instability of their situation. Ethan understood instability far too well. One morning, when Laura's hand shook as she attempted to lift her coffee cup, Ethan felt something inside him shift. The distance he usually kept between himself and others had been eroded, bit by bit, by each quiet encounter. He found himself standing before he even realized it, walking toward her table with a question in his eyes instead of on his lips. Laura met his gaze, hesitant, vulnerable, and for the first time, Ethan saw the unmistakable loneliness behind her resilience. Not a loneliness of isolation, but the kind born from constantly being the strong one, constantly carrying more than anyone realized. Ethan didn't ask what she needed. Instead, he gently placed a napkin under the trembling cup, steadying it for her. It was a small gesture, but her eyes filled for a moment, and Caleb leaned gently into her side as if the world had just become a little easier from that day forward. Their interactions changed. They spoke softly. When they happened to sit near each other, they exchanged small stories, small sorrows, and small hopes, never too much at once. Just tiny threads, gradually weaving connection, trust, and something neither of them had expected to find. Ethan learned that Laura's accident had left her uncertain of her future employment. Her medical bills were stacked high, and she was struggling quietly, relying on faith and perseverance. Laura learned that Ethan's marriage had ended not out of betrayal or anger, but from 2 souls drifting apart when they needed each other most. He confessed only once that he had spent weeks feeling as if life had emptied him of purpose. Their shared brokenness created a bridge, a space where they didn't have to pretend, and slowly, Ethan found himself looking forward to mornings in a way he hadn't in months. There was a morning, foggy, quiet, serene, when Caleb ran up to Ethan. With the excitement only a child could possess, he held a folded drawing proudly. Presenting it, Ethan opened it carefully, revealing a picture of 3 stick figures sitting at a cafe table, 1 adult on the left, 1 on the right, and a small child in the middle. Underneath, written in uneven handwriting, were the words, "My friends." Ethan had to look away for a moment, overwhelmed. Friend was a word he hadn't used or felt in so long. That picture, simple, innocent, became a turning point. One day, when Laura struggled to carry a small grocery bag on her way out of the cafe, Ethan instinctively took it from her hand. She protested softly, but her voice lacked conviction. When their fingers brushed, something warm and fragile passed between them. Not romantic, not rushed, just 2 hearts remembering what it feels like to be gently cared for. Over the next few weeks, Ethan helped Laura walk to the bus stop. When her leg was weak, he carried Caleb on his shoulders. Once, when the boy was too tired, he laughed again, real laughter that reached his eyes. He prayed again at night, not out of desperation, but out of gratitude for unexpected blessings. Healing does not arrive loudly. It slips in like early morning sunlight, unnoticed, until suddenly everything looks brighter. Laura too, began to trust him in small ways. She told him about the nights she cried quietly, so Caleb wouldn't hear, about her fear of failing as a mother, about the weight of surviving something. That took everything out of her. Ethan didn't try to fix her pain. He simply listened, a gesture more healing than advice. One morning, after months of shared moments that stitched their lives together, Laura sat beside Ethan at the cafe, her hands steady. For the first time since he had met her, she looked stronger, braver. Caleb leaned against Ethan's arm as if it were the most natural place in the world. Ethan realized then that quiet days are sometimes blessed interruptions, moments when God places unexpected people in our path to remind us that even broken hearts can beat again, and even painful endings can lead to gentle beginnings. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support truly encourages more real and emotional stories like this. Before you read the ending, please comment below. Do you believe kindness can change someone's life in the end? Ethan never forgot the moment it all began, a little boy tugging on his hand, speaking with pure sincerity, "Mom needs a place to sit." He didn't know then that he would one day find solace in that same family, that their lives would intertwine so delicately, teaching him that healing often comes from unexpected places, carried by unexpected people. And as he sat in the cafe months later, with Laura smiling warmly beside him and Caleb doodling happily between them, Ethan understood something that restored his faith in life. Sometimes the quiet days turn out to be the ones that change everything.